So today, I intend to complete the discussion about sleep disorders and how they affect our health. Sleep disorders or sleep deficiency or deprivation can increase our risk of a wide range of diseases and health problems, both physical and mental. To name a few: heart disease, kidney disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, stroke, mini stroke, obesity, ADHD, and obviously our cognitive performance, because if we cannot consolidate the things that we learned during the day at night when we are sleeping, we are not going to have a good memory, we are not going to have good focus or attention span. We're going to make a lot of mistakes, as I mentioned last time. The European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition, also called EPIC, E-P-I-C, has a very strong statement about sleep duration, and it states sleep duration of less than 6 hours is a risky behavior for the development of chronic diseases, particularly stroke and cancer, and should be therefore addressed in public health campaigns. So rightfully, they have taken this very seriously. Since the topic of our cancer education and study group is cancer, we are going to talk about how sleep disorders increase risk of cancer. So there's several studies, and I would not have time to go over every single study. I probably just mentioned the conclusions, but they have shown that there is a positive association between poor sleep quality and quantity and long-term risk of developing cancer in all age groups. The reason that sleep loss can cause cancer is that sleep loss causes cell damage, or basically when we don't get a healthy amount of sleep and good quality of sleep, the damages that are happening during the day to our cells, they don't get repaired. Therefore, we have increased cell damage, replication errors when these cells try to divide, and also a variety of metabolic abnormalities that lead us towards developing cancer. Even fragmented sleep, like, you sleep a couple of hours and then you're up and then you sleep a couple of more hours, it has been shown that it accelerates tumor growth. And not only this results in initiation of malignancy or cancer, but also it speeds up proliferation and local invasion and distant metastasis or spread of cancer to other organs. Women who, in one study, they looked at women who reported about 6 hours of sleep or less, and they compared them to similar women who reported sleeping 7 to 8 hours at night. And it was shown that women who slept 6 hours or less have more likely to present with locally advanced cancers or cancers that has already spread. So kind of stage 3, 4 of cancer rather than earlier stages, which have a high likelihood for cure. To mention a few of these cancers, colorectal cancer, there's more than one study that has shown that sleep disorders are associated with development of colorectal cancer. In one study, it showed that it significantly increases colorectal adenomas. As you may know, we started screening for colon cancer at age 50. And the purpose of screening is to detect adenomas. Adenomas or polyps, they're benign. And if we are good with our colonoscopies and screening, if the doctor who is doing colonoscopy finds any polyp or adenomas in the colon, they remove them. They remove them and then they send them to pathology, make sure it's benign. But as long as these benign adenomas or benign polyps are on a regular basis removed, you don't get the typical colorectal cancer, which is called adenocarcinoma of colon. I'm not talking about rare forms of disease, but the typical colorectal cancer is adenocarcinoma of colon, and it arises in benign polyps, also called adenomas. So lack of sleep increases the number of adenomas. Generally, when we do colonoscopy starting at age 50, if there's no polyp in a colon, the next time we have to repeat our colonoscopy is 5 years later. But if polyps are found, benign polyps are found, you need to repeat your colonoscopy 3 years later, because that shows that you have a tendency to develop adenomas. So you can only imagine if, because of sleep deprivation, the number of adenomas in colon are increasing, you may not catch them like within the 3 years between adenoma to adenoma, and these adenomas can turn malignant. Also, another study showed that people who slept less than 5 hours, they had 54% increase in colorectal cancer mortality. These are people who already had colorectal cancer. And if these people slept less than 5 hours, they had 54% increase in mortality, cause specific, meaning mortality from colorectal cancer. And they took into account any competing cause of death. For example, in the United States, heart disease and cancer are the two biggest killer and kind of compete with themselves. Sometimes cancer's risk is higher than heart disease. Sometimes next year, heart disease is more than cancer. But in this specific group, what was interesting that it specifically showed that it causes mortality from colorectal cancer by 54% in people who sleep less than 5 hours. Another study looked at men, and it showed that men who sleep for shorter durations, like 5 to 6 hours or less, they have a higher risk of cancer of the stomach. For prostate cancer, there was also a study that showed compared with men who did not have disrupted sleep, they slept like 7 hours or 8 hours like straight without having this fragmentation of the sleep. People who had fragmented sleep, they had significantly higher risk of prostate cancer, and the severity of the prostate cancer had a direct correlation with the severity of their sleep disorder. Another study looked at male physicians in the United States of America and showed that people with short sleep duration, male physicians in US with shorter sleep duration, they had a higher risk for developing lung cancer. And when another study looked at all-cause mortality, meaning that it didn't matter whether mortality was from cancer or heart disease or anything else, looked at all causes of mortality and showed that participants reporting less than 5 hours of sleep had 36% higher all-cause mortality rate compared to people who reported sleeping 7 to 8 hours. So it not only sleep deprivation, not only puts us at risk of a variety of diseases, physical and mental, it also decreases our longevity. It it negatively impacts our survival. It increases our mortality from all causes. And another study looked at post-operative courses of people who had a variety of operations. And one of the end goals for post-operative course is that people heal fast and they get discharged fast. They don't have complications after operation. And in a group of post-op people with poor sleep quality, they showed that they had significantly higher post-operative complication and longer hospital stay as a result after the operation. So clearly it shows that we don't heal well, neither physically nor emotionally, if we don't get adequate sleep. So now the question comes, we talked about how 50 to 70 million people in the United States are suffering from sleep disorder. So what are the things that we can do to help get a better sleep at night? The first recommendation is that we go to bed at the same time every night, and we wake up at the same time every morning. We normally do this with our children. Children have a bedtime. They go at 8 or 7 or whatever, 9. We put them to sleep at a certain time, and they usually get up at a certain time. But unfortunately, we don't do that with ourselves. And they say that, you know, a lot of people, they may be sleep deprived during the week and they want to sleep in over the weekend or go to bed earlier. They recommend against that, because having different bedtimes during the week versus weekend, it confuses your biological clock. So you want to have your biological clock set that I go to sleep every night at 9:30 or whatever time it is, whether it's Monday or Saturday, doesn't matter. And also for people who are having difficulty with sleep and are not getting enough sleep, napping, as I suggested, would not compensate for the lack of sleep at night. And they recommend that over weekend or in the day, even if you have time to take a nap, for an adult, their nap should not be longer than 20 minutes, because the longer your nap is, the higher likelihood that that night you will not be able to sleep at the set time that you usually go to bed. Worst case scenario for the weekends, you know, sometimes there are events and we have to do something and we're not always in control of time. They say that maximum deviation from your bedtime and wake up time should be an hour, not more than that over the weekends. The other recommendation is the quality of your bedroom. So the first rule is that you only want to sleep in your bedroom. You don't want to do anything else in your bedroom. So even for children, they say, you know, and too late for me, I have done it before. They recommend, for example, you don't put your child timeout in their bedroom, because they make that mental emotional association of punishment with sleep, and that can impact their sleep. In a similar fashion, we should not have a desk in the corner of our bedroom and part of the day work on our computer, or even take our computer to bedroom, even take our devices into the bedroom. So bedroom should be just for sleep. And if you are good at this, then your brain gets conditioned that every time you step into your bedroom, your brain kind of shuts down. It knows that it's time for sleep, because you don't do anything else other than sleeping in your bedroom. So they also suggest that your bedroom should be quiet, dark, and cool. I personally have to follow all of these instructions because of 30 years of having a problem with sleep. So my bedroom, for a period of time, it was really sad. I had to sleep in my walk-in closet because that was the only space in my home that didn't have a window. But as my sleep improved and I'm less sensitive to these things, now I'm in my bedroom, but my entire windows are covered with black sheets. No light comes into my bedroom. And thank God my neighborhood is quiet neighborhood. So I don't really have a lot of noise at night. But every now and then, because of a holiday or whatever, if there's any noise, I have eye covers, I have earplugs, and kind of create that quiet space for myself. I have a tendency to be cold all the time. So I'm not like in general fan of having really cold temperature in my house, but deliberately at nights, because I have experienced that when I'm hot or even warm, I wake up. So I have good covers. I have a weighted blanket, which helps emotionally because it's like somebody is hugging you, and you keep yourself kind of as much as you want warm with your blankets, but the air in your room should be cool. That air that touches your skin, your face, your head should be really cool. So that is something that I always follow. My air conditioner is always on at nights, and I keep the temperatures pretty down in my bedroom. So the other thing that they recommend is that to have like an hour of before going to bed as quiet time. You really don't want to be active until the moment it's your bedtime. So you give an hour before your bedtime that you start relaxing, you have a quiet time, you dim the lights, you are not exercising, you're not eating, you're not watching TV, you're not on your computer. If there's a soothing music that suits you and gets you ready for bed, that's perfect. If you want to take a hot bath, that helps you relax, perfect. I personally do Dr. Dispenza's restorative sleep meditation every night, which is about an hour. So I start an hour before my bedtime. I do that meditation, and that meditation, the second half of it is when you're lying in your bed. So it guides you through the first half of meditation, half an hour, and then it instructs you to go to your bed. So you go directly to bed and listen with your headphones. The second half of meditation, you're listening to it while you're lying down, and it's purely music, the second half. And then I fall asleep. So in general, there's certain things that people who have difficulty with sleep should avoid. Physical activity is fine, but you don't want to have strenuous physical activity closer to your bedtime. That turns your body on. You don't want to do that. You also want to avoid artificial bright lights. Everyone knows that the light that comes from computers, from the cell phone, it's really, really bad. TV, the same. Generally, light is bad close to your bedtime because, as we discussed last time, your hypothalamus and your pituitary gland and your pineal gland, they are getting cues from your environment. So when they see light, they think it's morning, and they start secreting cortisol and serotonin. But when it's dark, that's their message to them that it's night, it's time to sleep, and they start secreting melatonin. So in general, you want to avoid bright light. You also want to avoid heavy or large meal before sleep. You really want to have at least 2 hours between your meal and your bedtime. And I personally have experienced all of this. My body is so sensitive when it comes to sleep that if I deviate from any of these, I would not be able to sleep. And I immediately know what caused it. If I ate a little bit late, or it was a little bit heavier and my stomach is still digesting food and I'm in the bed, I would not be able to sleep. The other thing is that they recommend that you avoid alcoholic beverages. And this is funny because most of people, if you have, I have a problem with sleep, they say, oh, drink a glass of wine before you go to bed. And that was something that I tried. But what happens when you drink a glass or two of wine, the blood level of alcohol rises very quickly after you drink, depending on what you're eating with the food. I mean, the food you're eating with, if you're drinking and you're having a meal, usually meals that they are high in carbohydrate, they speed up absorption of alcohol. When you have food that is high in fat, it kind of slows down the absorption. But regardless, alcohol is not a remedy for lack of sleep, because when you drink alcohol, the alcohol level in your blood rises, and then you may get sleepy, you may get relaxed, you may even fall asleep. You may even get sleepy and fall asleep. But a couple of hours later, depending on what else is in your stomach that affects the absorption of alcohol, then the blood alcohol level drops suddenly and you wake up. So I have experienced this many times. In the past, I don't drink anymore, even socially. It has been it has been 3 years since July of 2018. But when I used to drink as a way to help me sleep, that happened all the time. I fall asleep, and then at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. I'm up, and then I cannot go back to sleep. So that's a recommendation to avoid. In addition, obviously, caffeine and nicotine. Nicotine and caffeine are brain stimulants. And a cup of coffee in late afternoon can cause a stimulation of your brain up to 8 hours after that. So if you drink a cup of coffee in the afternoon and 8 hours later it's your bedtime or past your bedtime, you wouldn't be, before your bedtime, and caffeine still stimulating your brain, you will not be able to sleep. Caffeine is not only limited to coffee, it is in sodas, caffeinated sodas, it is in tea and chocolate. I experienced this again firsthand. I eat dark chocolate, 97 something. It's completely bitter. I don't want any sugar in it. And I may add a little bit of monk fruit or something. I have it in the form of like a drop. Just add a drop of monk fruit to it just to take the bitterness away. But I didn't realize that for a period of time I was eating dark chocolate like right after my dinner or with my dinner, and then at night I couldn't sleep. And then I figured out that was the chocolate, because it has caffeine, and my heart was racing all night and I couldn't sleep. And pretty soon I figured it out that it's chocolate. So you want to generally avoid stimulants beginning afternoon, late afternoon especially. The other recommendation is that you spend time outside every day, whenever it's possible, and be physically active, obviously, but exposure to sunlight, especially in the morning before 10 a.m. is highly recommended, because again, it's training your brain, it's helping your brain to secrete serotonin and cortisol and the hormones that you need to be awake and be functional. And it's very helpful. Being outside, especially, we have talked about this, about earthing or grounding. If you walk barefoot on grass, or even dirt. There's nothing between your feet and your skin and the earth. You don't want to walk on concrete. That's not going to help you. You don't want to walk on asphalt. That's not going to help you. You want to have direct contact with either dirt or grass or water, like pool, swimming pool. Even if you put your feet in the swimming pool, that grounds you. So that is very helpful, to go outside every day, expose yourself to sunlight in the morning, ground yourself. It just balances all of your energies. The other thing that I haven't learned, and I really have to work on that, is the recommendation for not staying in bed when you cannot sleep. And I haven't conquered that one yet, because when I'm not sleeping, I'm tired. I keep trying to go to sleep in bed. But the recommendation is that when you're awake, when you wake up, you have a hard time falling back asleep, you leave your bedroom. You leave your bedroom, you go to another space. Again, you keep the lights dim and everything, but whatever relaxes you, you can do a little bit of reading, not on computer, on the book, or something that is not giving you, it doesn't give light to your eyes and doesn't stimulate your brain thinking that, oh, good, this is morning, let's wake up. No. So reading, listening to some quiet music, meditation, whatever makes you sleepy or tired and quiet your mind down. And then you go back to bed when you feel tired and sleepy and try to go back to sleep, rather than staying in bed and struggling. Because again, the brain is gonna make the association between your bed and struggling to sleep, and you don't want to teach that to your brain. So basically, that's what I have for today, and I'm gonna stop the recording. So if there's any question, I can answer. Thank you for joining.